Hi class, it's Mrs. Thomas. Today we are going to talk about expanding and simplifying polynomials. You can find this lesson under lesson 2.1 in unit 2, and I've already gone ahead and downloaded it in a PDF over here. So let's get started. All right, making sure, good, okay. So lesson 2.1, we start with expanding and simplifying something that you might have seen already. So whenever you see numbers in front of brackets like that, what we need to do is we need to multiply the numbers out. So we have 2 times x plus 3 minus 3 times 2x plus 4 minus, in brackets, x plus 7. So when we're multiplying these out, our first term will get a 2 times x and a 2 times 3. So 2 times x becomes 2x in our first line. It's kind of crossed out already, but that step will come later. So we have 2 times x to make 2x. We have 2 times 3 to make 6. And then we move on to the next one. We have minus 3 times 2x. Minus 3 times 2x becomes negative 6x. We have minus 3 times 4, which becomes negative 12. And then we can move on to the next one. We have minus times x and minus times 7. So we get a negative x and a negative 7. So all of these terms are jumbled up, and I suggest that you can then organize them. So when I'm organizing them, that's when I start crossing out the numbers when I'm done with them. So first I have a 2x that I'm using, and I want to group it together with all of my other x's. So I have 2x minus 6x, and I cross those out, and then I have a minus x afterwards, and I cross that one out. Then I have plus 6, which is my number, and then I have minus 12 and minus 7, and I cross those out in red when I'm done with them. So now I'm left with 2x minus 6x minus x. And 2 minus 6 is minus 4, minus another x is negative 5. So I have negative 5x, and I write that down. And then I have 6 minus 12 minus 7. Well, 6 minus 12 is negative 6. Negative 6 minus 7 is minus 13. So my final answer is negative 5x minus 13. After that, in question 2, I am expanding and simplifying once again, only this time I'm expanding and simplifying binomials. So you might remember this from grade 10, expanding and simplifying binomials. Sometimes we use the acronym FOIL. And what this means is I look at my first terms, my outside terms, my inside terms, and then my last terms. So when I'm multiplying x plus 7 by x plus 3, my first terms are the x's. So I do x times x, and that equals x squared. Afterwards, I do my outside terms. So I do x times 3, because they're both on the outside there. So I have x times 3, which makes 3x. Then I move on to my inside terms. So I have 7 times x. 7 times x is 7x. And then I move on to my last terms. I have 7 times 3, which is 21. So I have x squared plus 3x plus 7x plus 21. After this, similar to the last question, I have to group my common terms together. So I have an x squared, and then I group together the 3x with the 7x to make 10x, and I have a final 21. So my final answer is x squared plus 10x plus 21. I asked you, the class, to finish the following 3 examples, and you then wrote your answers up on the board. So here we have your solutions. So in part B, we can see that FOIL was once again used. We have first, outside, inside, and last that were all multiplied together to get our final answer. And then after that, it was grouped together. Similarly, in question C, FOIL was also used. However, the final answer, when we were grouping our middle terms together, they actually cancel out. And careful when you're working with x's and y's. If we have two variables, don't forget to multiply the variables that aren't just x's, right? So our final answer in this case was actually x squared minus 36 y squared, not x squared minus 36, right? Sometimes it's easy to forget that last term because we're so used to working with the x's. So there's actually a little mistake over here, right? But this is the correct answer, x squared minus 36 y squared. And then we've got D. In D, the trick is it's always so tempting to just want to square whatever's inside the brackets, but you got to remember that if there's a square on the outside of your brackets, that's the same thing as multiplying your brackets twice, right? So 2x plus 3 squared is actually equal to 2x plus 3 times 2x plus 3. So once we have it set out like that, then it's just a matter of expanding it, and we get a final answer of 4x squared plus 12x plus 9. Our next example is the same idea, only we have expressions that are a little longer this time. So it takes a little bit longer, but the idea is still the same. So if you have a number in front of your brackets, right, I recommend that you multiply the brackets first. So it's kind of like BEDMAS in this case, where we want to do our brackets, then our exponents, right? Then our division, then multiplication, addition, and subtraction, right? So here I have an exponent, so I'm going to multiply the exponent first before I do multiplication, right? So my exponent becomes x minus 4 times x minus 4. I multiply that out, and then same on the other side. 2x plus 1 squared becomes 2x plus 1 times 2x plus 1. That gets multiplied out, and it remains inside of the brackets. And once it's inside of the brackets and all grouped, then we can actually multiply that 3 inside as well. So x squared minus 8x plus 16 times 3 becomes 3x squared minus 24x plus 48. And then 4x squared plus 4x plus 1 times negative 1 becomes minus 4x squared minus 4x minus 1. And then after all of that, then we do our final grouping. So we have 3x squared minus 4x squared, which is negative x squared. We have minus 24x minus 4x, which is negative 28x. And then we have 48 minus 1, which is plus 47. So our final answer is negative x squared minus 28x plus 47. And this student didn't even feel the need to cross out their terms when they were done with them. But once again, if you are like I am, and sometimes your eyes can see double, or maybe your eyes might miss something, it really does help to cross out those terms as we're working with them. It's just an extra tip so that you don't miss something and get an error. All right, after this, in question 3, we have something even more complicated. We have a binomial multiplied by a trinomial. So in this case, we can't exactly use FOIL anymore, but we can still use the same idea of FOIL, and that is that everything in the first bracket is going to be multiplied by everything in the second bracket. So we have x times 2x squared. So x times 2x squared becomes 2x cubed. And then after that, we have x times x, which is x squared. And then we have x times negative 7, which is negative 7x. And then we're done with the x in our binomial. We can move on to multiplying the negative 2 in our binomial. So now we have minus 2 times 2x squared, which is minus 4x squared. Then we have negative 2 times x, which is minus 2x. And then we have negative 2 times negative 7 for plus 14. So here we have 2x cubed plus x squared minus 7x minus 4x squared minus 2x plus 14. And let's just organize them so that all of our common terms are together, right? So once that's been organized and reduced, we get a final answer of 2x cubed minus 3x squared minus 9x plus 14. For question B, we have an example of a binomial that is being cubed, right? So my recommendation is that when you have an exponent like this, first, of course, you have to write it out as being y plus 3 cubed becomes y plus 3 times y plus 3 times y plus 3. And I personally recommend to expand two of them together. So in this case, I did the first two together instead of the last two, but you could also do the last two together as long as you're expanding only two of them first and then multiplying everything out. So we have y plus 3 times y plus 3. When we expand that out, we get y squared plus 6y plus 9, but we still have to multiply it by another third y plus 3. So first, what I did is I have a y squared, and then I multiplied it by y to get a y cubed, and then I have y squared times 3 to get a 3y squared, and then I crossed it out. I crossed it out when I was done with it, right? And that way I could kind of know that I was done working with the y squared. So I moved on over to the 6y, and we have 6y times y, and we added that down as 6y squared. And then 6y times 3 became plus 18y, and then I was done with the 6y, so I crossed it out. And then I moved on to the 9. So I have plus 9 times y, which is 9y, and plus 9 times 3, which is plus 27. So then I was done with the 9, so I crossed it out. So I knew I had gone through my whole trinomial, multiplying it by the binomial. So once this was all done, I grouped together my common terms, and then I wrote my final answer. So I have a y cubed plus, and then in this case there was a 3y squared plus 6y squared, so that got grouped together as a 9y squared. And then I had an 18y and a 9y, so I grouped those together as a 27y, and then I was left with plus 27. So my final answer was y cubed plus 9y squared plus 27y plus 27. Your homework for today is in your textbook. So we're continuing page 88. I gave you that list of homework questions from yesterday. We're going to do number 4AE, 5AE, 6AE, 8AB, and 11. And then we're going to do page 95, number 4, 5BC, 6AB, 7, 8, and 10. All right, let me put stars next to the questions that you are having difficulty with, and we can take them up in class tomorrow. Okay, so that is our review of expanding and simplifying polynomials. Have fun tonight.